Hey guys, it's me, Miss Norris, and welcome to Wiggly Tooth Wednesday. Every Wednesday in the month of September, I'll be reading a story about losing your teeth. If you're as old as I am, that's not exciting, but if you're a kindergartner, it's very, very exciting. And many of my kindergartners right now have wiggly teeth, and in honor of those wiggly teeth, Wiggly Tooth Wednesdays. Today, for Wiggly Tooth Wednesday, I will be reading Norman Fools the Tooth Fairy. Norman Fools the Tooth Fairy was written in 1992 by Carol Carrick and illustrated by Lisa McCue, and it tells the story of how Norman tries to fool the Tooth Fairy. We'll see how successful he is. If you're ready to hear the story, I'm ready to share it with you. Here we go. Norman Fools the Tooth Fairy. So you can see Norman, and he has a bag of black licorice. And here he has something all wrapped up, and he's writing his name on it, but I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm sure we'll find out. Norman was the only kid in his class who hadn't lost a baby tooth. One was sort of loose now. Instead of finishing his worksheet, Norman wiggled the tooth with his finger. So everyone in his class has lost a tooth except for him. I know how that feels. I always tell my kindergartners I didn't lose my first tooth until first grade, and I was so excited. Later, while his teacher, Miss Harp, read them a story, Norman waggled the tooth with his tongue. Kicked it with his tongue. How else was he going to get a tooth to put under his pillow for the tooth fairy? So he's a little distracted. You can see him wiggling his tooth with his tongue. And all the other students are just listening, but he's distracted. His friends gave him lots of advice. "I tied a string around my loose tooth," said Toby. "Then I tied the other into a doorknob, and my sister slammed the door." Norman winced. "My dad pulled mine out," said Matt, "with his pliers." Norman shuddered. Oh. But he admired the empty space between their teeth when they smiled. It showed that the tooth fairy had already paid them a visit. "Try biting an apple," said Sarah, "or eat lots of caramels." Norman didn't have any caramels, but he did have a piece of licorice in his lunch bag. So none of his friends are making him feel bad. They're all trying to help him, but he still feels bad. Sometimes that happens. Norman tried chewing on the licorice for a while, but nothing happened. Then he stuck it over his tooth. "Look at me now," he said. "Hey," said Toby, "Norman lost his front tooth." When Norman ate the licorice off, everyone laughed. So he was just being silly. You can see that licorice over his tooth, but he fooled his friend Toby until he ate it, and then everyone thought Norman was being very funny. Excuse me. That night, Norman stuck some licorice on his tooth again and smiled at himself in the mirror. He looked wonderful, as though a tooth were really missing. It gave him an idea. He fooled his friends. Why not fool the tooth fairy? Maybe she would think his tooth really fell out. But the tooth fairy would want to see it. Norman searched the bathroom for something like a tooth. At last, he broke off a tooth-sized chip of soap. "Perfect," he said, and wrapped it in toilet paper. Then, when Norman went to bed, he stuck the fake tooth under his pillow and turned out the light. So he liked fooling himself so much that he decided to practice again at home, and he really liked the way that looked. So he got a little piece of soap and that's what he was wrapping up on the title page. He was wrapping a piece of soap up in toilet paper, and he put that under his pillow and is going to sleep now. You think it's going to fool the tooth fairy? We'll see. Norman tossed and turned, waiting for the tooth fairy to come. What would she be like, he wondered. Maybe she would be a pretty lady in a sparkling gown, looking for lost teeth. Hey, tooth fairy, he would call to her. Here's one. Norman felt for the soap chip under his pillow. It was very small, and it was hard to find. The tooth fairy might not see it. He wrapped lots of toilet paper around the fake tooth and marked it Norman's tooth. It made a big lump under his pillow. Now she wouldn't miss it. So he's imagining what the tooth fairy might look like. And then he starts to worry that she might not find his tooth. So he puts it in toilet paper, a lot of toilet paper, and writes his name on it. And now he knows she cannot miss it. Norman lay in bed waiting. Soon, the tooth fairy would float into his room with a bag of money. After a while, he began to worry. How does she know when someone's tooth falls out? Does the tooth fairy just go from house to house looking under pillows? Norman got out of bed and made a sign with his crayons. Tooth under here, it said. An arrow pointed to his pillow just to be sure. So he's having a hard time sleeping, and he's wondering about how the tooth fairy knows when to come get teeth. He says it'll make it easier for her to know where it is. He puts a sign up. Tooth is under here. Come get it. That should work, right? Oh, there's a better picture of the tooth under here sign. And he's checking his tooth again. His tooth. It must be very late, Norman thought. Maybe she wasn't going to come. Once he even dozed off, but he woke with a start and checked the tooth under his pillow. He hoped that somehow a quarter had taken its place. But no, the lump of toilet paper and soap was still there. What did the tooth fairy do with all those teeth, Norman wondered. She must want them for something special. Maybe she made them into keychains. What do you think the tooth fairy does with all those teeth? Maybe keychains? Maybe she makes necklaces and jewelry, like a fancy ring. I don't know. I might wear tooth jewelry. Norman saw a light come through his window. It was growing larger. He peeked between his closed eyelids, hoping for a glimpse of the pretty lady. What he saw did not look like a tooth fairy to Norman. It looked more like a monster with baby teeth hanging from her necklace. It was a tooth monster coming toward his bed. Teeth! The tooth monster yelled. I want teeth! Little helpers were following behind her. Teeth! They chanted, waving pliers. Give me teeth! There's a kid with a whole mouthful, one of them screeched. Let's get him! So, his imagination has turned his curtain into a tooth monster with teeth necklaces and little teeth monsters coming after him saying, teeth, teeth, give us your teeth. You think this is real? You think this is a dream? Wait! Norman was so excited that he swallowed the licorice. There aren't any teeth here. Honest, he said. I was only fooling. Look! Norman turned the light on in a hurry. He reached under his pillow, but the monsters had vanished. Even so, he got up and threw the fake tooth out the window. And just to feel safe, he slept the rest of the night with the light on. So he creeped himself out, and he came clean. He said, "I didn't really. I was just teasing. I didn't lose a tooth." And he threw it out the window. The next morning, Norman was tired when he went to school. For the first time in weeks, he didn't even check his tooth. At lunch, when he was eating his peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Norman bit down on something hard. It was his tooth. It had fallen out all by itself, just like that. Just the way he had always dreamed that it would happen. So his day starts off a little slow and tired. He didn't sleep very well. But at lunchtime, everything turned around and his tooth fell out just like that. Just like that. With no wiggling, just a bite of his sandwich. And turn that day around for sure. "How will the tooth fairy hear that my tooth came out?" he asked his mother at bedtime. "Don't worry," she said. The tooth fairy knows all about it." But Norman looked worried. Suppose she isn't nice." His mother patted him. "I'm sure she's someone you would like." So after pretending to lose his tooth, he's a little bit scared, but his mama makes him feel a lot better and says that she's sure that the tooth fairy is a very nice person that he would like. Even so, Norman slept with the light on again. He squeezed his eyes shut and never opened them until morning. When Norman felt under his pillow, sure enough, his tooth was gone, and in its place was a shiny new quarter. So he was still a little scared, so he slept with the light on. But probably because he was scared and tired, he didn't open his eyes, so he slept all night long. And when he woke up in the morning, there was a quarter instead of a tooth under his pillow. And then and now that he has a new tooth growing in, he's making sure to brush and keep his new tooth safe and healthy. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the story Norman Fools the Tooth Fairy, please hit that thumbs up button at the bottom of the page. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. If you're not a subscriber yet, please click that subscribe button down at the bottom of the page, and don't forget to click the bell so that you're notified when there's new content. I hope you all check your wiggly teeth, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.